As part of the apparently short-lived plan for Pixar to create shows for Disney Plus, the series Win or Lose was announced in 2020. Now it's finally reached the service with 2 episodes of this 8-episode miniseries released weekly. Centering on a children's softball team and telling stories about individual characters, it was created by Pixar story artists Carrie Hobson and Michael Yates, who directed and wrote every episode. It's also an original concept rather than a spin-off of one of the studio's movies, so I was definitely curious to see how it would turn out. While it took me a few episodes to get into the show, I did think Win or Lose was a solidly done miniseries. The reason I was slow to get invested is because of the interesting structure of the series. We're not merely watching an individual character in each episode, but rather seeing how their storyline connects to everything else going on. That's why it was smart for Disney to release 2 episodes per week, so you can immediately remember where each specific character is in a given moment. I would say the structure of Win or Lose was comparable to, of all things, Arrested Development. That show would often have something going on in the background that was either calling back to an earlier scene or even provided foreshadowing for something we see later. Win or Lose does the same thing, as you'll see something from one person's perspective, and then in a later episode you see the same scene but from someone else's point of view. There are even moments we come back to several times because of the multiple characters who were in a scene. I feel like if I go back and watch the episodes again with this knowledge of the story and characters, I'll appreciate it even more. The main theme of the show focuses on the anxieties that manifest in our minds as we worry about the future, and these are represented in unique ways that are specific to that individual character. For example, the umpire's nerves about romance manifest in a suit of armor, an extension of his role on the softball field. We also have a young boy who imagines the world through the lens of a science fiction action cartoon, and one of the softball players whose heartfelt feelings are depicted through a diorama. Those little touches add a lot to the characters. I think the strongest pair of episodes involved a mother and her daughter Rochelle trying to make ends meet. I was very invested in what was happening to them and seeing how Rochelle's actions are viewed from the mother's perspective and vice versa. When we see those moments, it gives a different understanding and further sympathy for what they're going through. The show was able to build on those characters and how they each react to these connected events leading up to the big championship game, and so upon reaching the final episode we fully understand them, what scares them, and why they approach certain situations the way they do. I really like the designs on the characters and their world. This is a regular suburban neighborhood, but with a lot of touches in the production design and lighting to give it so much life, and the moments that exist within the characters' minds are exceptionally well realized. There's a charm to the look of the characters, which is a simplistic cartoony style that I appreciated. Their bodies and faces give them a lot of elasticity and freedom to move and contort in all sorts of ways that fit them. One character that stood out to me is not even a main one, but instead a janitor who helps out the umpire. He had a way of using his mop and gliding across the screen that was very energetic and attention-grabbing. Same goes for Rochelle's mother and her baby brother. The character who's received a lot of attention prior to the release of Win or Lose is Kai, one of the softball players. The reason for this is because she is transgender, but the creators were then ordered by Disney to cut down on that aspect, including a scene in a bathroom. The good news is that in her episode it's still very much implied that Kai is transgender, with the way she is designed at various points and her conversations with her father. However, it's also obvious that she had scenes removed from her episode, as it feels like we don't spend as much time with her compared to the other characters of individual episodes. And that's a shame. A character being transgender should not be something controversial in a family show. They exist and should not be treated as strange and unusual because they're not. I know if a transgender character appeared in a show I watched as a child, I probably would not have much of a reaction, because their existence is not as confusing and complex as certain people make it out to be. Including someone who's transgender in a show and done in a respectful manner will just generate empathy. And it's great seeing the rest of the softball players treat Kai as part of the team because she is. Overall, Win or Lose is a decent show, although with the way it's presented, I feel like it will reward repeat viewings. You do get to know the characters throughout the 8 episodes, and there are a lot of creative visual angles in depicting their thoughts and anxieties. It looks like Pixar will be going back to making primarily animated features and shorts, but it's at least nice that for a short while the artists were able to make both this show and Dream Productions and showcase their abilities at serialized storytelling.